Today, I'm going to talk about the true Earth genesis. Now, I'm going to blow a lot of people's minds today. I'm going to shock a lot of people and upset a lot of folks, and they're not going to like what I have to say, especially those that are stuck to their religious dogmas. But the way this world is going and as dark as it's gotten, it's time for the light to be shined on the darkness and for people to know the truth. So, I am going to talk about the true genesis of this version, okay? Hear me out. This version of humanity, all right? Too many people are caught up in, their religious dogmas and their beliefs on, who their people are and uh, who God is and all this stuff and fighting over land and resources. Now, I know a lot of you are wondering how come I'd never included Pluto in my keys and so I'm gonna show you why I didn't include Pluto. Okay, because today we're gonna include Pluto in the solar system. And when I didn't include Pluto, it was because I was showing you the keys for humanity. Now I'm gonna show you something else. So let's plot our solar system. We have our sun, and let's plot our solar system. So the first planet away from the sun is Mercury. The second planet away from the sun is Venus. The third planet away from the sun is Earth. The fourth planet away from the sun is Mars. And the fifth planet away from the sun is Jupiter. The sixth planet away from the sun is Saturn. The seventh planet away from the sun is Your Highness. And the eighth planet away from the sun is Neptune. Okay? And the ninth planet away from the sun, as you all were looking for, is Pluto. Okay? So you're probably wondering, why didn't I include Pluto? So now I'm going to show you why we didn't and why I did today. So when you use these keys, and this is what I teach in my classes, if you haven't registered for my class, The Secrets of Time and Space, I recommend you do. If you haven't purchased my book, Saphira, the Matrix of Time and Space, I recommend that you do. It's all the link in the bio. Um, these are keys. The solar system is also a key, and this is all knowledge that was learned in Egypt, ancient Egypt, and I'm going to show you how to use these keys to distill the truth from the lies. Okay. Now today we're going to talk about something different, and I'm going to show you um, what these keys actually make when you use Pluto, when you include Pluto. Okay. So what we have here is a symbolic representation of a let's just say a human and a giant. You see, the when you add Pluto, Pluto is the key for making the key for giants. Okay? And let me see if we can get this going correctly here. And the eighth planet, Neptune, is symbolically represented as the DNA strand, or the Kundalini with the serpents running up the spine. And that comes up like this, and it comes up and comes out like this, and comes down. Okay, this is all knowledge that was learned in ancient Egypt a long time ago, and I'm returning it to humanity. Okay, and what you see here, I'm going to explain this to you, and I explain this in my classes. What you see here is a symbolic representation of the stories that we were told, and the archaeological tablets and the tombs and the ziggurat and stuff like that that was discovered in ancient Sumeria, Egypt, stuff like that. This actually proves some of those stories as correct, and some stories false. Okay, so What we have here, I'm just trying to make sure I accent enough stuff so you can see this clearly. What we have here is a symbolic representation of our history. And that's how you can use the stars to unlock humanity's history, especially from our last save point. Okay? So, what does this mean? Well, a long time ago, this planet was occupied by a different group of beings, and beings that came from different parts of the cosmos came and inhabited this planet and changed the course of history that this planet was on. Okay? So, what this represents is the giants on the right side here. This is the giants, and these are the humans. Okay? So giants, the giants that existed were the Anunnaki, who came from outside of our time space, and I'll prove that in a moment. But what I wanted to show you is what happens when you include Pluto. Pluto represents the giants and the long beard that they had, and this side is the human side, and the middle is the royalty, the side where when once wake up and realize who we are, we then have the opportunity to become one with our creator. And I'm not saying the creator of, as of the giants, but I'm talking about the creator of the universe. And I'll explain that in a minute. You see, a long time ago, this planet was occupied by a completely different race of beings. And let me just finish this up here so you can see this a little bit more clearly. So, um, when we are thinking about ancient Egypt, you have the pyramid, and you have the pyramid and the Sphinx and everything. And I want to say probably want to drop this a little bit lower, so I'll bring this down here. And as a matter of fact, let's just go ahead and finish this off here, because we're going to be drawing a lot of keys here today. So I want to make sure that we have enough room to depict everything. I'm gonna blow a lot of minds today, and I know some of you are wondering, why does everything go back to the Sphinx? Why does everything go back to the Sphinx and the pyramids? And the reason for that is because the Sphinx and the pyramids are actually modeled after the heavens, the cosmos. A lot of people don't know that. These are keys to unlocking different stories that we weren't told, that only a select few people even know about. And we're gonna unlock some more keys and stories than we were even aware of, and than we were told. And we're going to um, distill more lies from the truth, or more truth from the lies, however you want to put it. And let's include the egg here. A lot of people don't know that there's an egg. There are three eggs actually inside of the Sphinx, and those eggs hold our history. Well, I wouldn't say our history. They hold the history of this planet in there, and the beings that occupied this planet before we got here left it behind for us to find. So I'll explain that a little bit later. So we have our egg, and from the egg, the DNA, the DNA of the ancestors, runs through us and all that stuff. So let's bring our pyramid down a little bit more, and we're gonna do some more explaining on what this all means. Okay, so we got our pyramid going. We've got our new Sphinx going, and I know some of you have heard, oh, the Sphinx, the face has changed. The face changed over time. It wasn't always that. Yeah, I guess you could say that, because we have three different faces here, and we have the Anunnaki, the ancient Sumerians, and we have the enlightened God face, and we have the human face. And if you notice that the Eye of Ra and Horus actually represents the third eye of the left and right facing faces. And um, you'll also notice, let's see if we can get this going here. Yeah, yeah. There we go. So what? Let's start explaining this. Okay. So I know a lot of you have probably seen the ancient artwork, like maybe the Dogon tribe, and some people were talking about how there was the ancient Anunnaki who were half man and half fish who came out of the water, right? You can consider this part symbolically as the water. And he was half fish, half man who walked out of the Stargate. Yeah, this is what happens when you include Pluto. You can actually prove that right. That's what that was. And this was the giants, the Anunnaki, and what they did. Like, this is gonna be hard for you to believe, but what happened was, let's see if I could depict this a little bit better over here. I'll do it over here, okay? So if you think about time and space like an hourglass, okay? Just think about it like an hourglass. Um, let's think about time as an hourglass, and let's think about the cosmos, space. Let me be out here, and let's put it. Let's put it like this. Yeah, let's do it like that. Hope that's not too far out. Okay, so let's see if you can follow me on this. So there's multiple versions of Earth. There's so many Earths out there. There's not just one Earth. We are like one of many Earths. There are parallel Earths also. The cosmos is not one dimension and stuff like that. So what happened was, you see, a long time ago, Atlantis, if you understand alchemy, Atlantis existed in the higher third dimension up here, and down here was the lower third dimension, which was the material dimension, the thick dimensions where we reside. Everything is hard. Okay? Atlantis, they didn't die. The Atlanteans didn't die. They lived for eons and eons because they lived in the spirit world, the spirit dimension of Earth. Here in the material world, things died off and were renewed. Um, and so what happened was, outside of our time space, a parallel Earth, the Anunnaki came from outside of our time space, and they ended up coming here to the lower third dimension. And here in the lower third dimension, this place was, a lot of you are not going to believe this, but this was already occupied by hairy barbarian beings. And this was literally, down here was literally the planet of the apes. It was literally the planet of the apes when they got here. And this we I'm going to just try to complete this like this so you can understand it, the significance here of this being Earth. There's a higher third and a lower third. Okay, so you got the higher third and the lower third here. This was the planet of the apes. So the Anunnaki got here, and this place was full of apes. And it was crazy, because what's crazy is the destinies got swapped, because when the poles flipped on Earth, the great flood that we were all told the story of, whatever nation you came from, you heard different versions of the flood, right? But what happened was, there was a vortex that opened up, and there was a destiny switch. The the Atlantis fell to lower third, fell underwater. And so the lower third became the higher third. And so after the waters receded, this is where we ended up. And now we are all sitting here like wondering, what happened, trying to figure out our history and all that stuff. And we don't realize that we actually swapped destinies with the Atlanteans and the Anunnaki who were here, because Enlil caused the flood. Oh shoot, I'm not even on camera. Enlil caused the flood, and at Atlantis, up in the higher third, a flood was caused as well. The poles were flipped up there as well, and both sides made an arc. And when the waters receded, they returned, and a new kingdom was established. And then you have you have the Sphinx, and what we call the Sphinx, they call it something else, but then you have the Sphinx here. A new kingdom was established, so that's when the waters receded. But those from the higher third, they got on an ark, but it was like a spaceship. And so they came back through a Stargate, and it sounded like um, electricity when they arrived. And that's when the Dogon tribe said that, they're the people that ended up on their shores came from the water, and it was like they heard a big crackling, like stones cracking together, and it landed in the water and all that stuff. Those were the survivors of the Atlantis flood, and they ended up on the shores of the Dogon tribe. Okay, and try to follow me here. So back to the lower third, when the Anunnaki showed up on Earth, this was the planet of the apes. All right, so this planet did not have the type of human beings that we see walking this Earth today. No, that is when they wrote that God made man in his image, because when they got here, they were apes. And so they used the clay of the earth to actually create this version of human beings that we see. That was the generation of Isis. All right. That was the genesis of this version of humanity. Humanity did not begin the way we were told. And I'm going to talk about how we need to learn how to discern the knowledge that we're given, and discern and think for ourselves, and not take it literally and run with it. So just to continue, yeah. So what happened was, this also, Pluto being here also represents the fact that the apes got their wig pushed back, and they altered the DNA and made them slaves for them. Because when the Anunnaki got here, they brought their own slaves, but those slaves rose up against them, and they ended up having to smack them down. And one of the scientists said, "Hey, there's some hairy creatures out there, that I think that I can upgrade their DNA, and we can make them work for us." So what they did was, it took many trials and errors, and um, some of them came out like Frankenstein's. And at first, when they created the first atom, this is like the Adam and Eve story. And like I said before in my past videos, the Adam and Eve story was macro and micro, as above, so below, but it happened in so many ways. And what you see here is a symbolic representation of a scientist working his magic over the simple being. And what he did was, he tinkered with the DNA and upgraded their DNA enough so that they would look humanoid and walk upright and be able to handle the tasks that they need them to handle. And at first, they weren't able to reproduce. Adam was not able to reproduce, because even in the Bible it says, after Cain killed Abel, he said God God gave him a son in his image, or whatever, like him. It's because he couldn't reproduce. The first two humanoids could not reproduce because they were made with crystals. They were made with crystals. They weren't made with the clay of the earth yet, until they decided to they wanted them to mate. So what they did was, they put them in cages. They put the male and the female in cages, but they wouldn't reproduce. They weren't reproducing. And so they had to go back to the laboratory, and that's when they figured out, okay, we're going to use the clay of the earth. They used the clay of the earth, and seven bold women decided to step forward and said, we will carry the children. We will carry the first child. So seven women stepped forward and said that they would carry the child. And so they carried these first beings to term, because they made them like the Anunnaki, and they carried these beings to term, and they were able to reproduce after that, once they did that. And so after a while, one of the scientists, his name's Enki, a lot of you know him as Enki, he did something pretty cool, because he actually left our third eye in there and activated. So we can use our third eye whenever we want. And that pissed off Enlil. That upset Enlil, because he made two children. He made two children intelligent. And that really made him upset, because he said, now they're going to be like us. That part's in the Bible as well. Because when Eve ate the apple and gave it to Adam, ate the apple, and all of a sudden they knew they were naked. Yeah, because when they made these slaves, then they weren't treated like regular beings. They were treated like slaves. They didn't know any better. They didn't know they were naked, right? So that part was written in the story to illuminate the fact that all of a sudden they were intelligent. These Anunnaki didn't want them to be intelligent because then they would rise up against them like the last version of slaves. And so uh, Enki and his brother ended up, they had an argument, disagreement, and Enlil, caused the flood. And you can consider this, the pyramids upside down, as the flood, right? And this, though, is significant because this symbolically depicts what happened to this version of life on this earth. There were so many different versions of life on planet Earth for millions of years. There were not just humans on this earth, and that's what I want to get straight to everyone. We were not always here. We did not get created by the creator and the creator did not seed this world with humans. The creator seeded this world with completely different types of beings, and beings that came from outside of this time space came to this lower third dimension earth and found a planet of the apes, and they used their science and technology to upgrade the DNA so that they can make a slave race. And that slave race continued all around the world. You got the black race, you've got the white race, you've got the Asians. The Asians, they were created by the Greys, and they were made to be efficient for the task that they were supposed to do. And the Anunnaki, they started in Africa with the beings that they found there in Iraq, and what we call Iran, and they created ziggurats. And I talk about all this in my class, and I show you the proof. And this stuff is even baked inside time. The symbols are in time as well. Like, this is all a matrix. We're all inside of a giant matrix playing. Playing a character role in the story, and the game is to figure out the truth, to find the light in the lies, in the darkness, and the symbols, and everything has just been fractaled out there. All right. So we have the Planet of the Apes. These guys were upgraded, and now we're going to step this up a little bit. Now, and remember, you guys could, and you guys don't believe me, you can look up this stuff, this artwork that's out there, where you have the half fish man that came out the water and had 1 foot and 1 fin, looked like a mermaid. Like, this is all written in the stars already. All these stories are already written in the stars. Now you know why I use the Sphinx and the pyramids to unlock these truths, because they are keys. That's why these statues exist. They're not there for you to just take pictures and wonder how these human beings built these mathematically precise pyramids and built the Sphinx and why their nose is missing. No, they're keys, and that's how we're supposed to be looking at this stuff symbolically. Okay, so now I want to talk about why we need to be discerning of what we're told. Okay, no matter what nation you come from, whether you read the Quran, the Torah, the Holy Bible, the Hermetica, the Emerald Tablets, you cannot just take what it says as the truth and run with it. Okay, we have to be discerning of any knowledge that's been given to us. Anything that I say, you should be discerning to it and look into it yourself. Okay, it's like LeVar Burton on Reading Rainbow. You don't have to take my word for it. Just use your own mind. And what I'm trying to do for you is elevate your consciousness so that you can actually be able to think for yourself. All right. Since I want you to think about this, since you were born on this earth, you did not have a choice on what religion you were going to practice. You were given a book and told to go to this church and pray to this version of God. And now you've got these Bible thumping Christians out there who keep making comments on my videos saying Jesus is the only way. Jesus is king. Well, let me tell you something. If you feel like you have to inject your religion in a conversation, then you are in a cult. Because a real Christian would let anybody practice whatever religion they want and would not care. Because if you are really a spiritual person, really one with God, then your relationship with God is personal. It doesn't matter what anyone else says. It doesn't matter what I say. So you wouldn't have to actually inject your religion and push your Jesus on me, because that's how you know you're a part of a cult. And if you don't believe me, look up the definition of a cult. All right. So let's step this up a little bit and talk about the zodiac and our destiny. Okay. So I want to show you why we don't want to take whatever's told to us and run with it. So I'm going to read from the Hermetica, and I want to read a couple of passages, okay? So here's one. This is from Hermes, the Corpus Hermeticum. And Hermes writes, "My teachings will seem more obscure in times to come, when they are translated from our Egyptian mother tongue into that of the Greeks. Translation will distort much of their meaning. Expressed in our native language, the teachings are clear and simple, for the very sound of an Egyptian word resonates with the thing signified by it. All possible measures should be taken to prevent these holy secrets being corrupted by translation into Greek, which is an arrogant, feeble, showy language, unable to contain the cogent force of my words. The Greek language lacks the power of convince, and Greek philosophy is nothing but noisy chatter. Our Egyptian speech is more than talk. Its utterance are replete with power." Okay? he That's basically Thoth, Hermes, saying that these Greeks are going to translate this stuff and mistranslate it and make it, and people are going to misunderstand this stuff. And I'm going to give you a perfect example. The zodiac and the destiny, and I'm going to show you how it relates to this, okay? The zodiac and the destiny. This right here, if you were to take the zodiac and the destiny and read this as is and run with it, you would be misled. This is why you need to discern whatever book you're given to read. Because even in the Hermetica, this has problems. You cannot just believe everything the Hermetica says, because it was written by a bunch of scholars. And this right here is how I'm going to prove to you where humans make mistakes. When the creator had created this beautifully ordered universe, he wanted to order the world also. So he sent down man, a mortal creature, made in the image of an immortal being, to be an embellishment of the divine body of the cosmos. It is man's function to complete the work of Adam. He was made to view the universe with awe and wonder, and to come to know its maker. At first, the heavenly gods complained, saying, "You are being rash in creating humanity." They see with inquisitive eyes and hear what they have no right to hear. They reach out with audacious hands. They will dig up the roots of plants and investigate the properties of stones. They will dissect the lower animals and one another also. They will seek to discover how it is that they are alive and what is hidden within. They will cut down the woods of their native land and sail across the sea to see what lies there. They will dig mines and search the uttermost depths of the earth. All this might be bearable, but they will do much more. They will press on to explore the world above, seeking by observation to discover the laws that govern the movements of the heavens. Adam replied, "I will build the zodiac, a secret mechanism in the stars, linked to honoring an inevitable fate. The lives of men from birth to final destruction shall be controlled by the hidden workings of this mechanism." And when the mechanism began to work, the keen-eyed goddess Destiny supervised and checked its movements. Through this mechanism, destiny and necessity are cemented together. Destiny sows the seed, necessity compels the results. In the wake of destiny and necessity comes order, the interweaving of events in time. Adam implants each human soul in flesh by means of the gods who circle in heaven. It is man's lot to live his life according to the fate determined for him by these circling celestial powers, and then to pass away and be resolved into the elements. There are some whose name will live on through the memorials of their mighty handiwork, but the names of the many will fade into darkness. Few can escape their fate or guard against the terrible influence of the zodiac, for the stars are instruments of destiny. which bring all things to pass, and the world of men, if, however, the rational part of the man's soul is illuminated by a single ray of Adam's light, the workings of these gods is as nothing, for all gods are powerless before the supreme light. But such men are few. Most are led and driven by the gods, which govern earthly life, using our bodies as the instruments of destiny. To my way of thinking, however, it is our duty not to simply to acquiesce in our human state, but through intense contemplation of divine things to detach ourselves from our merely mortal nature. Now, the problem with the Zodiac and Destiny chapter here in the Hermetica is that these guys incorporated words that are similar to the Holy Bible. You see, they are talking as if Adam has a problem with humanity trying to discover their true nature. Adam, Adam, the creator, did not say any of this stuff. This stuff was a conversation with the Anunnaki when they upgraded the DNA of these beings. Because when Enki upgraded the new batch of humanoids, he actually implanted the third eye in there and upgraded the DNA to make them even more intelligent. And that pissed off Enlil. And they translated this even in the Hermetica as if this was a problem that they would actually, be so curious about all of these things, and they're talking about chopping down trees and all this stuff. So there is a problem with this part of the Hermetica. You have to discern. So what parts are correct? What parts are not problematic? Well, the part where it says that through intense contemplation of divine things to detach ourselves from our merely mortal nature, that part right there, we don't want to. The thing about the Zodiac and the Destiny is it's designed to keep us as NPCs, non-player characters in this story. So everybody checks their Zodiac every day or every month and is like, oh, I wonder what this month is going to bring for me. And honestly, that's you being an NPC. Who cares? That's not how we're supposed to use the Zodiac. The Zodiac, we're supposed to use it to channel power, and I'm going to prove it to you. So let's build our Zodiac real quick, okay? We're going to build a Zodiac, a quick and dirty one, symbolically. All right? I'm going to give y'all a quick and dirty lesson on astrology. So let's do our symbols. We have Aquarius, and we have Pisces. I don't even know if this is in the right order. um, probably not. But and then we've got Aries. All right, and then we've got Taurus, and then we've got Gemini, and then we have Cancer, and then we have Leo, and then we have Virgo. Shout out to the Virgos out there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And Libra. And then we have Scorpio. Oh my God. I know some Scorpios and they are a headache. No disrespect to the Scorpios, but I know some Scorpios that are a headache. Sagittarius. And we have Capricorn. All right. So now we've got our zodiac wheel, okay? So now I showed you the key for that includes Pluto, and what that key does is it includes the gods, the lowercase g gods. Now let's get that clear. There's only one God, the creator, but there are, the ancients called the enlightened beings gods, but they called them gods as in lowercase g, okay? The the little G's. Okay, you got the big G, you got the OG, and you got the G, you got the OG and the G. Okay, so um, what this let's use our key now and implant the human key on here so we can understand the zodiac and how it affects humans. So we're going to use a solar system again, and so we'll put Mercury's one, and we'll put Venus is two. Uh, uh, Gosh, we're gonna push this out a little bit since the pyramid is here. We've got Earth is three, and we've got Mars is four, and we got Jupiter is five, and we've got Saturn, which is six. We got Your Highness, which is seven, and we've got Neptune, which is eight. So we can put them down here. All right. So this time we're going to use the key in a way to represent DNA. So, and also the orbit of the planets around the central pole as the sun moves up and down this the infinity. All right. All right, and then we got Saturn, Your Highness, and we got Jupiter. Now, you're probably wondering, why don't I put Saturn and Neptune on this side? Is because our solar system was knocked out of alignment a long time ago, and Saturn ended up with rings, and it was a whole thing. It was a whole thing, okay? And, if you want to learn more, you can take my classes. But this is a symbolic representation of our DNA and how our DNA bits were turned off, and how they injected a worship gene inside of us. And you hear some people who talk about this and mention this on YouTube and in their books, and they were at least correct about that. So what does this mean? What does this mean at all? Well, you got the zodiacs represent the constellations in the sky, and our solar system represents the energy that actually ends up affecting us when these stars and the moon are aligned with these houses, and the aspects of those natures really takes effect on us. And that's what I'm talking about when I say that we become non-player characters, NPCs in this story, when we just let the zodiac tell us what our day is going to be like, what our month is going to be like. We stay bound in this spell. So what we're supposed to do, this is what we're supposed to do, and this is what the ancient spiritual Christians did before the Romans crucified them all and burned them at the stake. All right. So this is I'm going to show you symbolically. I'm reintroducing the truth to the world. I'm reintroducing the original teachings from the ancient times. So what we're supposed to do, let me see if I can get this going here. All right, let's give him 5 hands. Let's give him 5 fingers. What did the 5 fingers say to the face? All right. All right. We got a ugly hand there, but so what's supposed to happen is we're supposed to elevate our consciousness. We're supposed to rise above and wake up and not let the zodiac control us. And we're supposed to channel the energy from the zodiac and the planets and the stars, and let that energy help us give us strength to get through the day and do what we want. And I'm not talking about doing witchcraft and stuff like that. No. I'm talking about activating of your chakras. I'm talking about meditation. I'm talking about drinking water, balancing yourself and grounding yourself, and praying, going within and activating your heart space, activating your third eye, your pineal gland, so you can receive the word from God. And this is how it's supposed to be. Otherwise, you become bound by the spell and you are destined to fall. Because what did the Hermetica literally say? That these malicious, these bad guys were what they claimed Adam said. What did it say in the Hermetica? I will build the zodiac, a secret mechanism in the stars linked to honoring an inevitable fate. The lives of men from birth to final destruction shall be controlled by hidden workings of the mechanism. And when the mechanism began to work, the keen eyed goddess Destiny supervised and checked his movements through this mechanism. Destiny and necessity are cemented together. Destiny sows the seed, necessity compels the result. In the wake of destiny and necessity comes order, the interweaving of events in time. Like, this is, and also, yeah, let me get this part too. Adam implants each human soul in flesh by means of gods who circle in heaven. The zodiac, who circle in heaven. It is man's lot to live his life according to the fate determined for him by these circling celestial powers, and then to pass away and be resolved into the elements. There are some whose name will live on through the memorials. Yes, those who rise, they will have statues made of them. and of their mighty handiwork, but the names of the many will fade into darkness. Yes, like this. Few can escape their fate. Few can escape their fate or guard against it, the terrible influence of the zodiac. For the stars are instruments of destiny, which bring all things to pass in the world of men. If, however, the rational part of a man's soul is illuminated by a single ray of Adam's light, the sunlight, the workings of these gods is as nothing. If you are illuminated to the fact that the zodiac was designed to destroy you, then it won't affect you. For all gods are powerless before the supreme light, but such men are few. Such men are few that will rise above. Most are led and driven by the gods which govern earthly life. Most are led and driven by the gods that, like, this is, and you guys check your horoscopes every day, and like, this is what's happening to you. You're being bound. You're being controlled. You see this? You're being controlled. Which govern earthly life, using our bodies as the instruments of destiny. Using our bodies as the instruments of destiny. To my way of thinking, however, it is our destiny not simply to acquiesce in our human state, but through intense contemplation of divine things to detach ourselves from our merely mortal nature. Come on, y'all. So this is why you need to discern any religious text that you read, because I just proved to you how what that Hermetica was saying was literally telling you how we are destined to fall. We are destined to fall because the zodiac was designed to keep us in a spell and keep us as NPCs. But if you are illuminated to that fact, you can use the zodiac to your advantage and it won't control you, and you become masters of your reality. I know I just dropped a whole knowledge bomb on you with the genesis of Earth, but I'm speaking facts. I'm speaking facts, and I just proved it to you. So I don't care what nation you come from, what religion you follow. You need to discern whatever book it is you were given to read since birth, because we were all led astray. Your relationship with the Creator needs to be a personal relationship. It's nobody else's business how you pray, how you communicate with God, because your relationship with God is your relationship. You don't need a priest, a pastor, a shaman, or whoever to tell you how to talk to God and how to live your life. Who cares who the next pope is going to be? You're your own pope. You are your own pope. Rise above and stand in the light. My name is William, and I came to light this world on fire. Flame on to infinity and beyond. I love you all.